Clearly, Labour feel that these sanctions, and it's not just Labour, it must be said, some of your colleagues as well, simply don't go far or fast enough. Do you agree with that?
I think across the House, what we've seen is unanimity that we want to see a strong, fast strike that shows Russia and Putin that they can't just continue to make incremental gains. They can't just declare part of Ukraine to be independent and therefore under essentially Russian de facto control. And I think we all felt that there needed to be a strong message sent immediately to prevent Putin from going any further.
In saying that, though, many feel that, a couple of banks and some individuals isn't quite the strong response that the Prime Minister seems to have alluded to, given the fact that this invasion's already begun?
Absolutely. In the chamber yesterday, I pressed the Prime Minister to go further and faster. I asked him to blacklist all Russian banks and to ban the city from servicing any Russian state companies, as well as their accountants and the lawyers and those that hide the oligarchs' money. I've been very clear that I want every ill-gotten ruble ripped from our system, and I want a strong cost, because only strength is what Putin will respond to. And actually, we don't want to be standing here in a few days going, OK, well, we're at containment stage. Again, he's gone a bit further. OK, he's now occupying the whole Donbass. OK, well, we need to make sure he doesn't go to Kiev. We have to stop him now. And yes, I would have liked to have seen stronger package of measures yesterday, but it does look like those are coming forward. And so I think my message to the Prime Minister remains, do them now and do them quickly.
Yeah, indeed, and the Prime Minister did allude to the fact that more sanctions were likely. Alistair, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm afraid, Darren, you're not going to get much of a debate today, because I'm agreeing with just about everything that Alicia's just said. It's all very well for the Prime Minister to stand at the dispatch box today and say that, yes, more is still coming and that there's all in stream and the rest of it. But he had the opportunity yesterday to do all these things. Sanctioning 3 individuals who've already been sanctioned by the United States of America since 2018 really doesn't cut it. When you say we've got to walk in lockstep, that ignores the fact that, in fact, the person who's pulling everybody back at the moment seems to be our own Prime Minister. Yesterday, if we had done the sort of things that Alicia was talking about there, the comprehensive sanctions against all Russian financial interests, and not just sort of tipping a wink to the Russian oligarchs who are already here and saying, if you don't get your money out in the next 10 days, then we're coming after it, then, you've really missed the opportunity here. And a message like that would have been one that Putin understood, because we see this right since 2014, since he had invaded Crimea. And time and again, he just takes a bit, he banks it, and then he will go back. But then every time, it's like the wave coming up the beach, it goes that little bit further. And unless you take meaningful action, then he's going to keep coming back for more.
Alicia, one of the things that Sir Keir Starmer brought up today was Russia Today, which is continuing to broadcast here in the UK. I think they've banned it in Germany, for example. Nadine Dorries is looking into this, has asked, I think, Ofcom to review its licence. Where do you stand on RT? The Prime Minister seemed to be suggesting that we still live in a democracy and that it has got a right, if it's not breaking the rules, to carry on broadcasting.
I've been very clear that my view is that it should be banned. And the reason it should be banned is it's essentially a hostile state actor. It's an arm of a hostile state, one that carried out essentially a nuclear attack on our territory in Salisbury. So I have no qualms at all with saying that we should ban this information weapon. And when people say, well, that will mean the BBC is banned in Russia, well, first of all, hardly anyone watches the BBC in Russia, if we want to be honest with ourselves. And those who want to consume it would continue to do the way they consume any information that counters the Russian government, which is through a VPN. So whilst I fundamentally want to protect our Russian BBC service, ultimately, I also want to see Russia Today taken off our air as soon as possible. It's a weapon system. It's undermining our country.
But what it might mean also is that the BBC there was kicked out, that their correspondents aren't allowed to broadcast from Moscow, and that would be a blow to our understanding of what's happening at the Kremlin. As in, what I'm trying to say is you could kind of reverse that and say, well, not many people watch RT here in the UK, so it's kind of spread as disinformation, if you like. It's pretty limited.
Look, would I prefer to have BBC correspondents in in Russia able to operate? Absolutely, I do. But I would also challenge the ability that they currently have to meaningfully investigate. How free are they? I spent a lot of time at the Foreign Office dealing with independent journalists in Russia who were regularly being beaten up, having their offices broken into, information taken away, threatened. Look, we have broadcast into Russia before when we weren't allowed there, and we could do it again. There is no reasons why we couldn't continue to provide the information we need to provide the truth to Russian citizens from outside of Russia. Would it be more difficult? Yes. But is it at the right cost of preventing dangerous disinformation that is being sown, is sowing seeds effectively within our society? Yes. We have MPs in the House of Commons who share Russia Today nonsense. This is something we should be dealing with.
Alistair?
Yeah, look, Russia Today really is the low-hanging fruit here. Yes, it's very obviously a state-owned, state-operated propaganda arm, if you like, and I don't think we should be having that on our screens. But frankly, at least it's fairly open and transparent in terms of being exactly what it is. Russian information and interference in British politics goes well beyond Russia Today, and it's not just British politics. We've seen the influence that they've had in American politics in recent years. We've got to get real about the influence of Russia in interference in Western politics and the role of Russian money in British politics and other countries. And, to that debate, where the real issue, the real influence and the real damage is being done, Russia Today really is a bit of a sideshow.
And just very finally, I'm sure there'll probably be agreement on this as well. I take it that you both kind of think that Russia shouldn't be allowed to host the Champions League final in St. Petersburg as planned. Alicia?
Absolutely not. But then, for example, Xinjiang shouldn't have been allowed the genocide Olympics to go ahead in Xinjiang either. The world has to step forward and realise that culture is a weapon. And so far, our enemies are using it as a weapon, but we're not.
Alistair, many people say sport should stay out of politics.
Well, look, I mean, the political reality is that when you go to Beijing or you go to Moscow, then sport is used for political purposes. And, I think one of the concerns I have about the way that we're tackling the Russian attack on Ukraine as a whole at the moment is that it does weaken our future position if we ever have to come to deal with China in relation to her territorial ambitions, because China could employ exactly the same arguments in relation to Taiwan that Putin employs in relation to the Ukraine. If you're drawing your national boundaries according to ethnicity and language, then if we concede the principle in relation to Russia and Ukraine, then frankly, what answer do we have to China at a later stage?
Okay, and just Alicia, just before I let you both go, I mean, given the scale of this crisis and the intensity of it, and I see that European leaders are going to hold an emergency meeting in Brussels tomorrow evening, starting at 8 p.m. I mean, is this a good time for a potential leadership challenge against the Prime Minister?
Look, I think there's clearly unanimity of view across Parliament that we stand united in wanting to protect our friends in Ukraine. And when I was in Ukraine 3 weeks ago, on the front lines in the last Ukrainian-held territory, in the last building, they were very clear with me that it is the UK that has stood most behind the Ukrainian people. And I think there is absolute certainty across the House that this is what people want to do, and they're standing behind Boris and making sure the country does what they need to do.